last video I made 6 pieces, rough cut on the bandsaw. Now I'll screw each one of those to my master template, and I'll trim each of those rough cut pieces flush to the master template at the router table using a flush trim bit. It has a bearing at the top that rides against the template, and then the bit trims away all the excess wood on the rough cut pieces. Doing this ensures that each of the 6 pieces are exactly the same size as the master template. So now I can line those up 3 pieces at a time. Line them up flush. I'll drill some holes in them so that I can use screws later as alignment pins. And then so that when I glue it, it'll all line up flush, and those all fit good. So now some glue, and the glue gets spread all over that surface. A little bit of a messy process, and a little tedious to get glue across all the surface. I use a combination of a brush and also a card to spread that glue out. And now the glue's been applied, I can put the pieces together and line them up as good as I can by hand, and as close as possible. And then I'll drive those screws through those pre-drilled holes, and that will align them perfectly flush. One screw at each end and one in the middle. And put a whole bunch of clamps on it. And after I get a lot of clamps applied all the way around, I'll use a paper towel and some water in the bowl there to wipe up any glue squeeze out, because I don't want that messing up the inside curves. I used almost every clamp I own. I needed a large diameter dowel to use as a sanding block on those inside curves, and I didn't have one, so I grabbed a piece of scrap cedar limb that I had laying around in the workshop, put it on the lathe, and turned it down to an appropriate diameter. If you look closely, you can see dust rising off of that because it's so dry. Good time to wear my respirator. And here you can see why I needed that dowel. I'm going to wrap some sandpaper around it. And I need that round surface to sand these inside curves. It takes a while to do this. I'll speed it up for the video, but it took me quite a while to get those smooth enough to my liking. And now to glue these 3 together, the other half of the mold. And of course I engraved my workshop logo and some other information into this, so that if I make other types of guitars in the future, I'll be able to identify which mold goes with which type of guitar. Use wax paper to keep any glue squeeze out from sticking to the workbench underneath. Again, I like to get glue out to the very edges of the pieces, and then spread it as evenly as possible with the card. It's a fairly messy process. I would say with gluing like this, large panels, a little practice with the card goes a long way. And I've had some practice. And again, we'll put these together by hand, get it lined up as close as I can, and then drive a few screws for alignment pins, and that will line it up perfectly flush. And of course, I'll go over the entire curve on this half as well with that sanding block. One in the center and one at each end. aligned with the screws, then put clamps all the way around just like we did on the other half. And then after they're all clamped up, we'll wipe up the glue squeeze out with a wet paper towel. The glue is easy to wipe up when it's still wet if you have a wet paper towel. Easier than scraping. In the end, I wind up with this, a full guitar size in a mold that comes apart in the middle. It latches together, and this will hold the guitar sides in place and in shape while I attach other things to them. Now to order some guitar wood.